Well, John Morosi says that Dylan Cease to Houston is just as likely as any other destination. And if that happens, you're talking about replacing Framber Valdez with the strikeout machine. Add in Christian Walker, hitting the trade block, and the Astros might finally be clearing the deck for a full-on roster reset for 2025.
This is Walker Yannick. You're listening to Locked On Astros podcast.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Heisman and Brett Htown Wheelhouse Chancey.
Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Htown Wheelhouse with Locked On Astros, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 podcast network in America. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is a great app. You can basically download the app. You can get Game Time, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Brett Chancey, and I'm here solo tonight. Eric is working the night shift at his job. Between him and I, we have 18 years experience, and I'm excited about the show tonight because we are going to talk about one Dylan Cease. We are going to talk about Christian Walker possibly hitting the trading block, and will Japanese talent come to Houston? Look, at the end of the day, the Houston Astros have got a lot to think about. And I just saw a tweet by the guy who has me blocked, John Heyman, that Framber Valdez and his agent are at the GM meetings talking to teams. He's tied with Max Fried, I think, for the most wins in that stretch. And Zach Wheeler's not far behind. So he is definitely in elite company. But let's start with the Dylan Cease talk, because if Houston's serious about moving on from Framber Valdez, that's not just a pitching change. That's really a philosophical one. And then after that, we're going to dive into Christian Walker and what that could mean for the infield, a shuffle, and how both moves tie into the Astros' bigger offseason picture. And we'll finish with why, despite the buzz, Houston is probably out on all the big name Japanese talent this winter. It's not about scouting, it's about spending. So let's start with Dylan Cease. Let's start with the talk. Because if Houston's serious again about moving on, we've got to look at what they're looking at moving into and having to basically reset the rotation puzzle for the Houston Astros. Assume for a moment that Framber Valdez departs, which he probably is, and shifts away from the full-on ace role. That then puts Hunter Brown squarely in that spot. What if instead the Astros take a hard turn right and do something they haven't done in a while or ever and bring in Dylan Cease to fill that slot? Okay. And so today we're going to unpack why Dylan Cease may not just be a plug and play replacement, but a potentially better fit for Houston heading into 2025. Now, we've got to start with the foundation of Framber's, like what he's brought, what his resume was. He's been a rock in the city of Houston, posted a 3.66 ERA in 2025, striking out 187 batters. He's logged high innings, 192 innings in 2025. It's like, how do you replace that? Why does that matter? Because durability plus innings is the backbone of a rotation. And if Houston loses him, they need someone that can replicate that. And I've all along been on the horse or on the train that almost like a Moneyball type of thought. Like if you don't replace him with one player, which is hard to do, you replace him with multiple players. And that's simply the, I think, easier route. But is there reason to think that Jim Crane is going to change, or about face? He may. I mean, you can't say never. You can't say it won't happen, because they nearly dealt for him at the trade deadline, but the price was too high to pay. Okay. With Valdez's limitations would be his mental meltdowns, his going rogue. Again, you're going to have a hard time replacing and replicating what Framber was. J. Rob says Framber is still due his TJ. Now, see, I'm not going to put that on him. Not every pitcher has Tommy John surgery, and he is a big body pitcher. Think about J. Rob and everybody that's here. Thank y'all for joining us. Chris, JG, Luke, Linda, Ben Hur, and so many more. We know you're watching either on your phone or on your tablet or on your computer. You've made us your team every day for a while. We appreciate that. But Dylan Cease is a strikeout machine, y'all. He struck out over 200 hitters in consecutive seasons. Last year, 215. He has elite K per 9 strikeout stuff with 11.52 strikeouts per 9 innings. And what does that mean? That means more punch outs, fewer fly balls or fewer balls in play, and fewer variables. You don't have to move your field is over, you induce weak contact, and you have the durability in the innings. His high average innings per start since 2024 hover around 5.5 to 5.6. So my question is this: would that then be something that they look at or would want to limit him? And Rob, I completely understand. He says pass on Cease, too expensive, paying for his past performances. But he's been durable. He has been that guy. If you can bring in a Dylan Cease and you can bring in Justin Verlander, you would have Hunter Brown, you would have Christian Javier, you would have Spencer Arrighetti, you would have Jason Alexander. I still want Justin Verlander. And you would have, you love the thumbs up. Thank you, Mac. And then you would have Dylan Cease. You would have a 6-man rotation. And yes, it would be expensive. Wesneski's coming back, but he won't be here till June or July. So I wouldn't count on him until then. But Dylan Cease brings a different arm profile. He brings a higher upside in the strikeouts and more boom, even slightly, a little bit more risk. But he might align with the Astros, more swing and miss, less contact allowed. I mean, it's a great rotation, right? Every rotation is great on paper. And let me say this, I'm not talking suddenly in favor of Dylan Cease because I think it's inevitable. But when someone like John Morosi, who is around the clubhouses, who is around the GMs, who talks to professional baseball players on a daily basis, and yes, if you missed it, recently we had Jason Alexander. Recently, we had Mauricio Dubon, but these guys like John Morosi, I mean, they are the pros pro. What I think would allow you is to have a deep rotation. You still have several years control for Hunter Brown. Do we think we can get Hunter Brown extended, J-Rob asked? I don't know. Now, here's the deal. If you sign Morosi, my counter to that is, does that ruin your chance of bringing in an extension to Hunter Brown? I don't know. But with Cease, you're not just replacing innings. You are upgrading the strikeout profile. Okay, listen to this. His average innings per start suggests that Houston would need to monitor him, okay? Maybe treat him as a 180-inch guy or plan for 6 innings or so per outing. In a 6-man rotation, that wouldn't be hard. ERA and control are a little bit of a concern, but the organizational buy-in is this. Houston must ensure his pitch mix, his health plan, and his usage align with their approach. And if they mismanage, the upside could go unrealized. Now, the Astros do have a pitching coach who is being looked at from Sugarland. And I believe the last name is Abreu. It's not that Abreu. But I am going to look. I completely am whiffing on his name. I know Mr. Moreno is here. But I know that the Astros are, here you go, Eric Abreu. They are looking at him as a pitching coach. He was with the Sugarland Space Cowboys from 21 to 23. Very, very good pitching coach. Highly touted, went on to be a bullpen coach with the Braves the last 2 seasons. So he did work with 2 of our big pitchers. He worked with Hunter Brown and he worked with Brian Abreu. And you know what? Next, we will talk about Christian Walker, putting him on the trading block, why that makes sense for the Astros after we hear about our friends from Game Time. All right, everybody, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the app that you have to go to. The NFL season is back, and so are the Texans. Oh, my gosh, what a win they had. Getting tickets can be a hassle, but never mind login screens and queues and prices jumping at checkout. That's too frustrating. That's why you use Game Time, the app that gives you the advantage. Back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time for the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. I've pulled up Game Time multiple times, no matter what event, and especially NFL. Tickets as low as $100 or even less. The app is made it super simple. I love the zone deals. I've used them. Pick the section. Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. Honestly, it's faster, it's cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I've ever bought tickets. I'm telling you, I've used them. Eric's used them, and I endorse this 100%. I literally don't use any other ticket site. So download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Thank you all for tuning in to Locked On Astros. I'm Htown Wheelhouse. I'm here with Locked On Astros. I'm flying solo tonight. And make sure you make us your first listen. And don't forget that, guess what? We are a part of the Locked On Network, the #1 sports podcast network. That's right, #1, numero uno. And you guys and gals, y'all make it. So I absolutely love the fact that y'all come here every single day and you crush it as always. We've got 69 watching noise. That's right. Whether you're watching by phone, whether you're watching by computer or a tablet or on your TV, you can even watch on your TV. Check it out. You know what's cool is you can go to the Amazon Fire TV and you can go to sports, click on Astros, and you'll see all our episodes. So go check that out. Thank y'all for tuning in. So we wrapped up the very first segment with Dylan Cease talk. Now let's move on to Mr. Walker, because the more I started thinking about Christian Walker, the more I started thinking, you know what, this makes sense. Look, Christian Walker being floated on the trading block is not shocking, but the ripple effect I feel like it could have on Houston's rotation is massive. So we're going to unpack moving Walker and how that could be a chain reaction where Dana Brown needs to finally bring order to a crowded infield. Think about the crowded infield. And no, I'm sorry, guy with shorts, I love your name. And you have a picture of shorts. How apropos. Walker for Scooble, who says, no, I added that. No, that's not going to happen. So let's look at the current logjam of what's going on. How much value does he have? Well, he hit 25 plus home runs and 779 OPS. It was his lowest, but he's still a Gold Glover. He's still a very good player, very serviceable. And I don't know about what they would have to eat, but that is definitely something that they would have to consider. But Mr. Moreno, hold on. Before we get into that, let's talk about the current logjam and why it makes sense for the Astros without getting into the details of figuring out how. So the left side of the infield we know is locked down. Carlos Correa at third, Jeremy Pena at short. And so there, right there is your defensive foundation. On the right side, it's a bit of a puzzle. Isaac Paredes is coming back. He will be here. You're not going to trade him. He has the bat, but he has limits on his range, okay? For second base. So while Altuve may not be, quote unquote, elite, the best place to put him on the field is second base. Is not left field. So if that's the case, then you can take Isaac Paredes, put him at first. I would much rather move him to first And then that way you would open up left field and DH more often for the big fella himself, Yordan Alvarez. Meanwhile, the contract of Walker is really what's looming, the $40 million, and the position overlap kind of has the Astros hands tied. So they have to almost be creative with this. All right. So if you trade Walker, suddenly everything falls into place. Follow me here. Again, Paredes slides to first. Let me reemphasize this. A more natural fit where his defensive limitations matter less. Okay. He's not. He is. I believe he had surgery. And I believe he should be ready for opening day, but 100%, I can't say that. Mr. Moreno or J-Rob, can y'all check on that? I cannot recall off the top of my head. I apologize for not having that in my frontal lobe, but I'm sure it's somewhere in the recesses of my mind. So let's get to this. We know Paredes is a more natural fit because of the defensive limitations. Altuve goes back to his familiar role of second base more full-time. I don't see him going back to left field. Yordan returns to left field DH because we need him to stay healthy and mash. So we know he mashes better when he's playing left field. And with the money saved, if they can unload most of his contract, Houston may have to eat a slice of the deal, but it opens the door for a true outfield upgrade if that's possible, and something the team sorely needs. Now, okay, negative, he did not have surgery. Okay, thank you so much. I wasn't sure if he did or not, but thank you, Mr. Moreno, coming in hot for our producer of the day on the side. We need to make a sticker for that. Give you like producer duties and like make a sticker and send it to you. Wouldn't that be cool? You know what? We've got some cool things coming up starting December. We haven't talked about it a ton lately, but we will be having some different tier. You can be a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 follower for Locked on Astros. It has some really, really cool perks that I'm excited about. So we will get into that. That's dangerous. Hey, you know what, Chris? You and I need to talk. All right. So even after moving on from Walker, here's the deal. The front office still has to sort out the bench. So let's say they move on from Walker. Well, you got Dubon, Urias, and Sanchez. One or two of these guys more than likely had to be moved to free up payroll and a roster spot. A lot of people are saying trade Dubon because he's got the most value. I do not want to trade Dubon, not just because we just interviewed him on the show. I just don't want to trade him. I mean, the guy is nails. Urias, I think, has some decent value. He doesn't have as much, but if you're trading two of the three, Sanchez and Urias, can you trade Sanchez? Would you do that? Okay. But make no mistake here, dealing Walker would be the first domino in a larger roster reset here, built around flexibility and give them financial breathing room. And that's really where I'm hanging my hat. And so I would say this, if you're watching the trade wire this offseason, you're paying attention to the GM meetings and you see Walker's name pop up, don't think salary dump, think roster liberation. The move might just be the one that reshapes the Astros lineup in 2026. You know what? Since we talked about game time, we got to talk about our friends at FanDuel because they are wonderful. They are great. And they are the #1 sports betting partner of the NBA. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some Japanese players when we return in our third segment. All right, kids, we want to tell you about FanDuel. Well, adults, we want to tell you about FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Did you miss the fourth quarter comeback by the Rockets last night? I sure hope not. Did you miss how Alperen Şengün just absolutely made mincemeat of Giannis against the Bucks, and they won a huge victory without a point guard? Look, if you like fourth quarter comebacks or Reed Shepherd hitting threes, there's no better time than to place bets with the official sports betting partner of the NBA. You can combine your live bets into same game parlays for a shot to win a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Imagine betting the over on the Rockets scoring 110 on a $5. You would get $300 in bonus bets. So head to the FanDuel.com today to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, once again, thank you all for tuning in. This is Htown Wheelhouse. We are here with Locked On Astros. We are your team every single day. And make sure that, thank you for making us your first listen. Make sure you make your second listen of the night, Locked On MLB game night, every game, every night until World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB game night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, go check out our guy, Paul Francis Sullen. Please call him Sully. He had a great, if you missed his episode, I actually went back and watched it. He had a great episode talking about Clase and Ortiz, talking about the gambling scandal. Let me go off script here a little bit. Talked about how this was really, really bad. And, you know, I talked about this with Mike Stanton on Back to the Bullpen. This is the one thing you don't do. And he said this is a worse scandal than any team cheating to win scandal because you are cheating to lose. You are profiting off your losses. You're affecting other teams. And do y'all remember when Clase in the playoffs just totally tanked and gave up like 6 or 8 runs in a really short span and had only given up a couple runs or a couple home runs all season? And then boom, he was like throwing meatballs. Sully's like, I don't have definitive evidence that the guy was throwing the game, but it sure seems like it. And so go back, watch his episode on that. It was absolutely phenomenal. Let me get a couple questions in here before we talk about the Japanese players. Do you think Alvarez is going to man up and quit his baby ways? See, Emilio, I don't think he's a baby. Look, I've actually talked to Yordan in person. I've talked to several players. We even talked to Mauricio before and after the show, and nobody wants to be on that field more than Yordan Alvarez. I don't think he's being a baby. I think, you know, he is a large man, and when something's injured, it's seriously injured. He just has had some bad luck. So I don't think it's as much as of him kind of quote unquote, what we would call in America, wussing out. I just think he basically has ran into some bad luck. So that right there alone is what has gone on. We hope that these ways can change, okay? I wish it was a Dodgers or Yankees player being caught up in the gambling scandal. Well, look, here's the deal. This guy's facing 65 years in prison. I don't wish that on anybody. But like I said before, if you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes. Tony asks, do you believe the Yainer Diaz gets dealt? I see some articles toying with the idea of trading him. My only question is, who do you replace him with every day? I think they go back and I think they bring back Victor Caratini. I think that's probably a 70 to 80% shot that they do that. But I don't see him being dealt, much like Mr. Moreno says here. He, to me, has too much upside and a little bit more room to grow. And if he can improve on his pop time, if he can improve and decrease that horrid chase rate out of the zone, I think you've got a guy that can hit 20 to 30 bombs, that can hit about 260 to 270, and can throw out runners at a much higher clip. He's got to do that. Number one, he's got to improve. I don't know if this is the season that you trade him. I think maybe if he went out there and just balled out and had an amazing season, and you're looking at the next starting catcher behind Yainer Diaz, then yeah, he's going to be dealt, but there's nowhere else to go. Where is Eric? Eric's working the night shift tonight, Baseball 12. Thank you for asking. He could not be here. So these Japanese players, what is it about the Japanese players that everybody's fawning over? I just, trust me, there is a lot to be desired. I mean, when you look at these Japanese baseball players coming over here, let's look at this guy right here. This guy is a superstar right here. This guy, right-handed pitcher, 27 years old, 1.92 ERA in 163 innings, fastball up to 27 miles per hour, slider whiff rate 22.6, changeup a 1.37 batting average against. But I just don't see the Astros going after him. There's going to be a lot of money going after him. And then if you want to go after what they are calling the Japanese Babe Ruth, his name is Munetaka Mukarami. Now, Munetaka Mukarami hits, I believe, below 200 on fastballs over 93 miles an hour. He is a big swing and miss guy. And I think the prices are going to be way too high. Now, I would love this guy to come over here. 25-year-old slugger. I mean, but I think at his age and the way he looks, he profiles as a left-handed power hitter. The dude is an absolute tank, okay? But I just really believe that he is probably going to be out. You also have from the Yomiuri Giants, Kazuma Okamoto. He's been granted permission. The 29-year-old has 247 home runs over 11 seasons in the NPB. I mean, you've got a lot of guys that are good. You have another guy, Tetsuya IMAI. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. I've got to get some lessons in Japanese. But all these guys, the reason why you won't see them in an Astros uniform, I think, is because of their price. Now, I know it's kind of counterintuitive because I just pumped up Dylan Cease and why the Astros should get him and go out there and get him. It's dollars and cents. But I think you need a starting pitcher more than you need a big left-handed bat. I mean, yes. Do we need a left-handed bat? Yes. Could we get another outfielder? Yes. Would the Guardians take Yainer Diaz back for Stephen Kwan? I don't think you do that. I don't want that to happen. Again, who are you going to replace Diaz with? Even if you bring Caratini back, let me finish my thought because I didn't. He's not a starter. Caratini's a backup. Caratini plays multiple positions. So that right there is what you have. Walker Yannick is not ready. You have others that are in the pipeline that are semi-ready. You're not going to make Cesar Salazar the starting catcher. This is not going to happen. So at the end of the day, you simply have to look at non-international signings, as I don't see the Astros dipping into the pond of the Japanese players this year. Yes, Astros, 2 Japanese players who were here, Yusei Kikuchi and Kazu Matsui. That's right. Who was basically burning trees, not trees. He was smoking in the dugout. The dude was smoking cigarettes in the dugout. That was crazy. How do you feel? Baseball 12 says, how do you feel about Xavier Nayans, our draft pick this year? Oh, I think Xavier Nayans is the wave of the future for the Astros. But he's not going to arrive for 2 seasons. I mean, you've got this kid's out of high school. Unless he just skyrockets and does like a Trey Savage type of ascension into the majors. And I don't see a hitter or catcher like him profiling that way. I think it's a lot easier for a pitcher to go through that than it is a position player. It's very rare that you see guys move as quickly through a system like a Cam Smith. Altuve was pretty quick. Bregman was pretty quick. George Springer would have been quicker had they not manipulated his time. But I love Xavier Nayans. I think he is probably one of their smartest picks that they've made in years. And, you know, it's funny, Dana Brown gets 0 credit for that. You know, we are all negative Nancy's until we win a World Series, and then everything went right. But what's crazy is we won a World Series and we got rid of that GM. Still a head scratcher. I won't be surprised if they roll with Diaz and Salazar as a backup. Look, that is a realistic thing, but I want Caratini back. I think Caratini makes sense. I've got time for a couple more questions. Do you feel like Zach Cole could get more playing time maybe in left field in 2026? I mean, yeah, he should. He should get more playing time. The kid's shown that he's got power. He's got a glove. He's got an arm. So you definitely have to find a place for him. So I'll take 2 more questions. Baseball 12, does anybody know if the Astros events are coming up? I know they do Caravan. Yes, that will be something that they will announce. They haven't even come close to announce that. They will announce Fan Fest before they announce that. And yes, like J-Rob says, he likes Cole in center field. I do as well. Maybe at some point they move on from Jake Myers. Jake Myers could be a trade piece. And Luke brings in the final question I'm taking. Brett, Thanksgiving Day plans. I've got quite the plans. Let me tell you. Yes, sir, Baseball 12. Doing a Thanksgiving the day before Thanksgiving at my house. And then Thanksgiving Day, I think I'm just going to chill. I think it's going to be me, my dog, just hanging out, just not doing anything. And then Saturday, I'll be going to my dad's in Galveston, where I'll hopefully get to see my daughter and my grandson and several others, my in-laws. So, yeah, so I've actually got a lot of plans. Friday, Black Friday, I'll be working lids at Baybrook Mall. Y'all come by and see me. I'll be working the evening shift there. And then I'll work a little bit during the week. But, yeah, man, I've got a week off. It's going to be nice. That will be really, really cool. Eric doesn't get a week off Thanksgiving anymore. Sorry, Eric. Well, hey, guys, that's all I got. I do not know about Bryce Matthews being blocked as far as trade pieces. I don't think anybody's blocked. I think everybody is on the table. On an off-season night, could the Astros cease the off-season? Is Walker on the trading block? Could the Astros tempt the fate of the Japanese players and get them to come to Houston? Well, I don't know. But I do know this. We are your team every day. We are part of America's #1 sports podcast network. And we are the #1 Astros podcast on the planet. Why? Because you guys and gals rock our faces off. Y'all have a good one. I'm out. Go Stros. Always goes quicker when I'm solo. It's weird. Is it just me, or does it go quicker? Thank y'all.